You're listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting us spend some time with you. I am being closely monitored this morning.
Good
finally.
morning, everyone. Yes, he is. I'm here.
You're here, are you? Oh my! It. Oh well. It's been a morning. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in a good mood too. I want to let you know, if you've not been here before, we have fun while we're doing this.
Try to.
We try to. And we talk about some important things. We talk about some lighthearted things. We run the gambit because, let's face it, the Bible runs the gambit, right? It takes care of funny things. There's humor in the Bible. It takes care of very serious, very, very solemn things. There's that. But if you can't enjoy what you're doing, if you can't enjoy life, that came through. Oh my! I didn't think I was that hungry. If you can't enjoy life, why bother, right? So be happy, be joyful. That's what we're designed to be. If you're new, make sure you go to givegod90.com and check that out. And, look at the books. Okay? There's Tradition to Truth, God's Universe, God's Rules, and Inheriting Lies. All of them are good. If you want something really, really, really in-depth, something that's going to make you stop and think, grab your Bible and read, okay, Inheriting Lies is what you want. Trust me. I've had a lot of people say that. If you like what you hear, those share buttons work. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free to hit those. It's free to hit the like buttons. And if you really like what you hear, turn the notifications on. We do a live podcast twice a week. It's not like we're going to bombard you with information, right? Or not going to beg for money every 5 minutes. That's not who we are. It's not what we do.
But if you want to donate, we'll take it.
Well, yeah, then there's that. I had a question not very long ago about superstitions among believers. And it was, why, do people who claim that they believe the Bible, why do people who maybe they go to church, go to synagogue, whatever it might be, why do they insist on practicing some superstitions? And I really wasn't sure about the best way to present that. How do I give some background as to why this occurs, what's going on? And I know a lot of people out there probably have, well, it's because they're just being silly. It's because they're this. It's because it goes deeper than that. And I want to look at some things here because it's worth looking at, right? There are churches out there who do or don't do certain things because, it says this in the Bible. There are churches and even synagogues out there who say, well, you should do this, but you shouldn't do that. And it has nothing to do with your relationship to the Almighty, right? Now, there are some places in the Bible that if you just read over it, it seems to allude to either chance or luck. If you're not familiar with biblical Hebrew or the ancient cultures, and that might be a good place to begin. So Myra's actually going to read a few passages here from different places. And it sort of sounds like, well, these people are gambling. These people are just taking a chance. These people are just relying on luck. But go ahead and read those, and let's see what it really has to tell us.
Then he shall take the 2 goats and present them before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. After Aaron casts lots for the 2 goats, one for the Lord and the other for the scapegoat, he shall present the goat chosen by the lot for the Lord, and sacrifice it as a sin offering. Leviticus 16, verse 7 through 9. Notwithstanding, the land shall be divided by lot. According to the names of the tribes of their fathers, they shall inherit. Numbers chapter 26, verse 55. And ye shall divide the land by lot for an inheritance among your families. And to the more ye shall give the more inheritance, and to the fewer ye shall give the less inheritance. Every man's inheritance shall be in the place where his lot falleth. According to the tribes of your fathers ye shall inherit. Numbers chapter 33, verse 54. And Joshua cast lots for them in the presence of the Lord at Shiloh, where he distributed the land to the Israelites according to their divisions. Joshua chapter 18, verse 10.
Now, there are examples of casting lots in this particular context. Lots of examples, okay? What I wanted to point out is they're not leaving this up to chance, okay? It's not up to luck. It's not some, how do I want to say? They're not gambling, right? The context of what they're doing is removing any of mankind's choice about what's going on. Okay? They are leaving that choice. They're giving that option up to the Creator. Because the Creator's Spirit, His breath, His Word controls everything. Right? So they cast lots. They and it's not like throwing dice, right? It's a little different. But they would roll these things out, and even the goat that was to be sacrificed or the goat that was to be freed was completely up not to chance, but it was up to the Creator, because they believed wholeheartedly, with their whole heart, right, that it would be the Almighty Himself who would decide how those lots landed. It would be, if you take a die out of a game and you rolled it and you didn't have any reason for a certain number to come up, they have statistics, on how often certain numbers come up. Well, those statistics kind of go out the window when you have more than one. Those statistics kind of go out the window when you have a handful. If you take, I'm just going to throw a number out here, 6 sets of dice, and you roll them, you have innumerable options for them to come up a certain way. But if you take that same handful of dice and you say, okay, I need some direction, and you roll them a certain way and they land, and you say, okay, my opinion, my desires are out of this. If they come up the same way, this is up to you, and I will go do whatever it is you sent me to, or sending me to do, because I want to make sure that it's you who is sending me to go do this. That's kind of the option here. And it's the same way when they were looking at the land, right? One of the heads of the tribes may have had their eye, and that piece of ground over there, that looks really, really good. I'd really like to have that. It is in my heart's desire to have that for my family. Well, when you leave it up to the Almighty, and you take that handful of dice and you lay it out there, it's no longer up to you, is it? You don't get to choose. You don't get to pick, no matter how much you wanted it, and no matter how much you may have been begging for it. Oh, Lord, please, if you just give me this, I'll do whatever. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. You leave it up to the Almighty, and no matter how much you want to argue with each other, it's out of your hands. You have changed. It was given, all of those decisions were given to the Creator. And that became so ingrained in the Middle Eastern mindset that even today, if you listen to a sportscast from that part of the world, you're going to hear a phrase, if God wills. If somebody's about to score a point in a sports game, a lot of the announcers will say, oh, he's headed to the goal line if God wills. Well, if you're in an Arab country, it's going to be if Allah wills. But you get the point, right? It's no longer left to the individual. Whatever happens, good or bad, in our viewpoint, is up to the Creator because it's His choice. Luck, fortune, never entered the mind of the ancient Middle Eastern people. That came later. Something else that came later was allowing other gods to choose. You remember when Haman, in the book of Esther, cast lots to see what day that he would set in motion to kill the Jews? Yeah, he wasn't he wasn't looking towards the Creator to answer his questions. He was looking to whatever gods or idols that he bowed down to answer those questions. At the crucifixion, the soldiers at the foot of the cross, it is recorded that they cast lots to see who would leave with the clothing that Yeshua was wearing, Jesus was wearing. Now, that was not to allow the Creator to make the choice. They wanted to win, right? They for them, it was the spoils of war. That's different. That actually is gambling because they wanted something for themselves. What they were trying to do, they were competing against each other to win something for themselves. That's the difference between leaving something up to the Almighty, you're giving Him the option, or playing against each other. Does that make sense? Did I say that right? Okay. And when you play against each other with the sole intent of winning, that's not always going to come out good for you. I know a lot of churches that well, they don't even hold raffles because, the soldiers gambled for Jesus' clothes. We can't hold a raffle. Well, let's face it. That's not, if you're giving your dollar or whatever it is for a raffle ticket, and all you want is the prize, yeah, that's kind of gambling. But if you're giving $1 for a raffle ticket and you don't really care if you win the prize, you're giving your dollar for whatever they're raising money for, right? Because that's typically how it's done. Well, give your dollar. If you win, you win. But if you give it with the right heart, it doesn't matter if you win or not. It's kind of like, who gets which section of land. Which goat gets sacrificed? Which goat gets run off into the wilderness? If you give it with the right heart, it's no longer gambling. But if you give it with the selfish greed or the lust for whatever prize is being given away, that's different. Am I explaining all that? Okay. As long as you can understand it, everybody who's listening can understand it too. So let me get back to the question why some believers seem to be so superstitious. Why they depend on luck. Why they depend on chance. Why do they do things that are inconsistent with what they claim they believe? Well, part of that comes from the lies we have inherited from our fathers. Another part is because of the traditions and man-made doctrines that we practice. And more of it comes from improper translation, improper interpretation of Scripture. But here's where I get to make you mad. The biggest reason that some believers are superstitious is their lack of trust in the Creator. Bless you. I did an episode a couple of years ago, kind of about superstition. And I use the example of people who cheer on their favorite sports team, right? And they do so by wearing the same jersey, the same shirt, all season long. Some people believe that when they wear it, their team wins. And if they wear it and their team wins, I don't want to wash it. I don't want to wash any of that luck away. Here is where we have a problem. I'm going to say this as politely as possible. If you really believe that a team that you're cheering for is winning because you wear a certain shirt without it being washed, if you eat a certain snack during the game, or you do something a certain way, even though you might be miles and miles away from where the game's being played, you may have never met a player, may have never met a coach. What you're doing is practicing superstition. And when you really understand what superstition is, you're going to see this. When you actually believe that winning or losing, whatever team you're cheering for, their winning depends on you sitting at home, watching your game on TV. If you think that what you do has more of an outcome on that game than the skill of the player or the coaches or the weather or the officials who make the calls, you need to get a life. Okay? That's as polite as I can say that. And I know people who do this. I've told them how ridiculous it is. But for believers to do this, what kind of example are we setting for the non-believers around us? When you choose to act so superstitiously, What kind of example? Let's go a little farther. I know believers who refuse to walk under a ladder. Now, it does make a lot of sense not to walk under some ladders, right? Especially if somebody's working, on top of it, right? If they drop something, it's going to hit you. It hurts. But it doesn't bother me to walk under a ladder and pick it up and move it. It doesn't bother, it's just nuts to, it's absolutely crazy to think, oh, if I walk under a ladder, I'm going to have bad luck. It has nothing to do with luck. It has to do with, is somebody up there working that's going to drop something on your head? I know believers who, every time they go across a bridge, they cross their fingers. I don't know why, but they do. Like, that's going to make a difference. I know people who hold their breath going past a graveyard. Now, that actually does come from an ancient understanding of spirit. Remember, spirit is moving air or breath. And the belief was if you don't breathe as you walk past where people are buried, then their spirit can't enter you. Well, that's completely ridiculous because their spirit is somewhere else anyway. I'm not going into that right now. I know a lot of believers who wish each other good luck. Right? Oh, I'm going to go do this. Oh, good luck. Have fun. Right? I know a lot who will knock on wood when they say something. I know believers who don't even want to see a black cat or a raven or a crow. And each of those superstitions can be traced back to worshiping idols, following false gods, or their worshipers. Right? They're priests. And people who believe in the Creator, believe in Yeshua, they wonder why the atheistic community considers Judaism and Christianity nothing more than a different superstition. Well, because even the pagan practicers would exchange beliefs, I guess is a good way to say that. They would do things that, what's his name over there? He did this and he had good fortune. I'll try that. Do you know that the Greek word for superstition that's found in Acts 25:19, the King James Bible, Strong's Greek number 1175. I'm going to ruin this pronunciation because I don't speak Greek. Diesedeomonia, I think, is how you say that. It's defined as religion in a bad sense, but nonetheless, a type of religion that has beliefs and practices. When you break the word down, it actually means reverencing the gods, the pious, or being religious. Now, we should remember that the same word we use to be religious in respect to the Creator is the same word used to describe someone who is religious about idols or other gods as well. So we need to be careful of our context. Now, I'm going to confess something here, and I may have said it on an episode or several. I'll say good luck, right? And usually it's very sarcastically. Good luck with that. That's not depending on chance. It's not depending on fortune. It's like, I don't think that's going to work for you. Right? So, and you may have, and I've said this often, you may have heard me say, well, it's bad luck to be superstitious. Right? Think about that. It's bad luck to be superstitious. Myra's a good example. Every so often, when you're around her, she will say, knock on wood, as she taps on her head. That's not being superstitious. It's being facetious. And everybody around that sees that knows she's being facetious, right? We make fun of superstitious things in our house. We don't care if it's Friday the 13th. Our granddaughter has a black cat. And I don't think that cat's attitude would change no matter what color it is. It's still miserable. So why is it that some believers, practice superstition? Well, think about our history. Many, many years ago, I had one of the first sets of Foxfire books that was released. And they were books that described the people and the way they lived in the Appalachian Mountains. And in those books were cures for many superstitious things, right? One of them, if you cut your hair and you put it outside and a bird builds its nest, it'll cure your headaches. That's superstition, right? You look at me funny like you've never heard that before. Have you? Or was it the opposite way?
It was the opposite way.
It was the opposite way.
My grandmother used to say that if you put hair outside and a bird used a nest, you would have migraines till the baby's hatched. Or headaches till the baby's hatched.
Mm-hmm. So you see, superstitions can work both ways, right? Something else was in the Foxfire books. It says if you get a nosebleed, you start reading in Ezekiel, and it'll stop. But I can't tell you the verse because that would bring bad luck. Now, along with these things that were in the books, there were some very realistic remedies as well. But it's easy to see that some of these superstitions have become so ingrained in our culture, it's hard to identify and stop practicing some of them, right? Practically every geographic area has certain superstitions that are local to that area. Places, you don't walk down that street after dark. It's not because of crime. It's because something happened to somebody years ago, and now the legends and the traditions have turned into local superstitions. There are places where you don't speak certain names because somebody did and they had bad luck. There's a show we used to watch on television. Every time they mentioned the name of the town closest to them, they would spit. It was hilarious, but that was their superstition, right? There are places that will pass along ridiculous superstitious beliefs. And I don't know if this is local or wherever. I haven't heard it anywhere other than pretty much around the area I grew up. But in my grandmother's house, you did not dare walk by a rocking chair and rock it. That was a big no-no in her house. An empty rocking chair that was rocking. Oh, that was terrible. Nope, can't do that. Did you ever hear that? No? Okay. There was a couple people that were like that. I have no idea where that comes from. No idea why. But all these superstitious things just add up to why. The Bible tells us there were 365 times not to be afraid. We're warned repeatedly not to practice the way of the pagans. And how do we respond? Good luck. We rely on luck. We We rely on chance. We rely on superstition, the worship of other gods and idols. When what we should be doing is trusting the Almighty completely. Superstition, literally, for believers, is the worship of lesser gods and idols. And most believers don't even realize they're doing it. It's so ingrained in our culture, we don't realize we're doing it. So, do them a favor. Share this with them. I'll be the one to tell them that they can't worship the Creator and their idols at the same time. If they get to this point, I just did. You can't have it both ways. You can't worship God and mammon, right? You can't have it both ways. You don't get to pick out the bits and pieces. It just doesn't happen that way. Our Creator uses a very sharp sword to divide His word and His way from the rest of the world. When you slice a hair down the middle, there's not a lot left to choose from. That's how sharp His sword is. There's no gray area. You smack something with a hammer, you get to look at the mush. You smack a walnut with a hammer, you got to pick out all the good parts from the shell. That's not how the Almighty works. His sword is very sharp. There's nothing left to choose from. You're either on one side or you're on the other side. You are either an example of how we are designed to live, or you are confusing someone with your hypocrisy. Now, good luck with that. Right? Good luck with that. Are you really willing to leave something just up to chance? Or do you really want to rely completely on the Almighty? That's up to you. And there's various ways of doing that. So be very, very careful of the things you say. Be very careful of the things you do. Don't be afraid to make fun of these ridiculous, superstitious things, because they're not real. Those idols of wood and stone, they can't hear, they can't see, they can't speak, and they're not going to answer you. Leaving something completely up to the chance that some wooden or stone idol is going to answer your prayer, good luck with that. And until Thursday,
be blessed, everyone.
Many, many blessings, everyone.